Vamos voltar a pilantrar. Deixa comigo, uma musiquinha pra machucar os corações. Nem vem quem não tem, nem vem de carro.
Goedenavond, welkom. Fijn dat u er bent met zo ontzettend veel. Hartstikke fijn. 700 ouders die belangstelling hebben om te horen waar hun zoon of dochter terecht is gekomen. U heeft kinderen. Ik heb ook kinderen. En wat wij allemaal willen is dat onze zonen en dochters een goede toekomst tegemoet gaan. Dat ze gewoon goed terechtkomen. Daar zijn we mee bezig als ouder. Vanaf het moment dat ze naar de basisschool gaan en vervolgens naar de middelbare school of naar het mbo. U werd door die scholen bij hun leren en hun keuzes zeer betrokken. Ja, en dan? Ik weet het zelf nog heel goed. 10 jaar geleden ging mijn oudste dochter naar het hbo. En de boodschap die we kregen was eigenlijk: laat los. Zij staat nu op eigen benen en je hebt als ouder geen bemoeienis meer met haar studie. Ik vond die abrupte overgang toen niet fijn, want je wilt toch betrokken zijn bij het nieuwe leven van je kind. Sterker nog, wij als Hanze Hogeschool vinden dat dat moet. En dat uw betrokkenheid één van de belangrijke factoren is voor studiesucces van uw kind. En daarom organiseert de Hanze Hogeschool in oktober voor alle ouders van alle eerstejaarsstudenten deze avond. Met als doel dat wij u vanavond meenemen in de nieuwe wereld van uw zoon of dochter studeren aan het hbo. Ik begin met u een vraag te stellen. Wie van u weet welke toetsen, tentamens uw zoon of dochter de komende periode heeft? Nou, steek eens even een vinger op. Echt? U weet dat niet? Ja, tuurlijk wel. En welke opdrachten af moeten en wanneer? De komende week, over 2 weken? En of er gestudeerd wordt voor een 6 of voor een 8? Of dat er überhaupt gestudeerd wordt? Voor ons is die eerste tentamenperiode een eerste belangrijke meting. En dat kan 2 kanten op gaan. Allereerst studenten die een 8 of een 7 of hoger halen. Deze studenten vallen op. Dat zijn talenten. Studenten die boven het maaiveld willen uitsteken. Misschien wel onze toekomstige honorsstudenten. Maar ook de andere kant. De studenten die een onvoldoende hebben behaald. Komt dat omdat ze niet hard genoeg gewerkt hebben? Of dat ze misschien erg moeten wennen aan het andere systeem van leren? Gelukkig is er voor hen nu nog geen man overboord. Er is gelegenheid om het vak dit jaar nog 1 keer te herkansen. Maar dan moet het wel gebeuren. Kern van mijn verhaal is vanavond: hoe kunnen uw zoon en dochter en wij en u als ouder er in gezamenlijkheid voor zorgen dat we elkaar in 2020 weer zien bij de diploma-uitreiking? Allereerst moet u weten dat het studeren aan een hogeschool heel anders is dan het leren op de middelbare school of het mbo. In principe is een student zelf verantwoordelijk voor zijn of haar studiesucces. En dat betekent dat de student zelf zijn studie plant en organiseert. En dat is wennen. Sommigen pakken dat zo op en anderen hebben wat langer tijd nodig. En daarom is er vanuit de opleiding met name veel begeleiding, maar ook sturing in het eerste jaar. Iedere klas heeft een mentor, een studieloopbaanbegeleider, waar uw zoon of dochter steeds terecht kan met allerlei vragen. En ook de studieloopbaanbegeleider praat regelmatig met uw kind over zijn of haar studievoortgang. Zeker als na het eerste blok niet goed is gescoord. Een ander verschil met de middelbare school of het mbo is de hoeveelheid lesstof die er voor een toets moet worden geleerd. En dat is veel groter. De praktijk leert dan ook dat als een student niet direct begint met het studeren aan het begin van een blok, en er zijn 4 blokken in een jaar, de kans groot is dat hij het tentamen niet haalt. En wij doen er alles aan om de studenten dat besef bij te brengen. En dat valt niet altijd mee. Nog een verschil met de middelbare school is dat uw kind hier wordt opgeleid voor een beroep. En daar hoort professioneel gedrag bij. Wij spreken hen daarop aan. Op tijd komen moet je later ook in je werk. Ook samenwerken en plannen, feedback kunnen geven en ontvangen en professioneel met elkaar en met de faciliteiten omgaan. Wat u ook moet weten is dat een student hier gedurende zijn studie, die dus 4 jaar duurt, heel veel keuzes moet maken. En dat begint zeker ook al in het eerste jaar. Misschien heeft u er nu al mee te maken dat uw zoon of dochter hardop tegen u zegt: pap, mam, ik ben er eigenlijk niet zo zeker meer van of de opleiding wel zo bij mij past na het eerste blok. Stoppen? Iets anders gaan doen? Of dat uw kind rond de kerst van zijn SLB'er het advies krijgt om te stoppen met de studie. Omdat wij er dan al niet meer in geloven dat hij voldoende studiepunten haalt in het eerste jaar. Of dat de inzetmotivatie veel te laag is. En deze dingen gebeuren. Deze dingen gebeuren bij 17, 18-jarigen die nog volop aan het zoeken zijn en midden in een ontwikkeling staan. Of gewoon het nieuwe studentenleven in de stad Groningen leuker vinden, veel te leuk vinden. Daarom stopt ook ieder jaar ongeveer 25 tot 30% van de studenten in het eerste jaar. En dat geldt voor alle opleidingen binnen de Hanze Hogeschool en landelijk ligt dat percentage nog hoger. En wij zeggen dan: ga thuis serieus aan de praat, ga het gesprek aan. En als het echt niet gaat, laat je dan uitschrijven van de opleiding. Maar het kan ook zijn, en dat gebeurt gelukkig in de meeste gevallen, dat uw kind zegt: ik vind het leuk op mijn opleiding. Ik vind het een mooi beroep en sterker nog, de behoefte heeft om in de 4 jaar niet alleen te studeren, maar ook andere belangrijke ervaringen op te doen. Voor die studenten zijn er heel veel kansen om het allerbeste uit zichzelf te halen. Zijn talenten optimaal te ontplooien en zelfs uit te willen blinken. En wij zouden graag zien dat u die ambitie stimuleert. Zo kan uw zoon of dochter geselecteerd worden voor het Hanze Honors College. Of dat hij studentassistent wordt. Of in het bestuur gaat zitten van een van onze studieverenigingen. KIK, Glitch of Real Time. Of deel gaat uitmaken van de medezeggenschap. Of heel hoge cijfers haalt en voor cum laude gaat. Maar ook, kijk eens naar links en naar rechts van mij, studenten die in het PR-team zitten. Die naar de middelbare scholen gaan. Die de meeloopdagen verzorgen. De Oranje Hanze Brigade van ons instituut. Daar zijn we hartstikke trots op. En zij nemen u vanavond dus ook gewoon mee. Dus geef ze een applaus. Daarom deed ik zo pas ook van: ga even naar voren. Ik weet niet of jullie dat gezien hebben. Maar goed, bij het maken van al die keuzes, ook al in dit eerste jaar, spelen wij natuurlijk een belangrijke rol. Maar ook uw rol is belangrijk. Betrokkenheid en klankbord en gesprekspartner zijn van uw zoon of dochter. En dat u er vanavond bent, getuigt al van die betrokkenheid. Dus dank u wel daarvoor. Tot slot, wij nemen u vanavond mee in de nieuwe wereld van uw kind. Een wereld die opleidt voor een beroep in de communicatie, in de ICT, in de mediasector of in de creatieve industrie. Waarbij uw zoon of dochter begeleid wordt door docenten, vakmensen die heel vaak zelf het beroep in de praktijk hebben uitgeoefend of nog uitoefenen. Kortom, ik wens u allen een leuke en leerzame avond toe en zie u graag weer na afloop. Dan nemen we er een borrel op.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Major Game Design and Development. You'll notice that I'm speaking English to you. That is because we will also welcome our students from out of the Netherlands who are watching. And we also want to make sure they understand everything. If something is unclear later on, feel free to ask your questions in Dutch during the presentation or afterwards. That is fine. Feel comfortable, but I will speak in English. But later on, if something is unclear, let me know. That's why I'm also using the microphone, so we will have also sound for our viewers. So let's start with introducing ourselves. My name is Arjan van Houwelingen. I'm the senior lecturer of the Major Game Design and Development. I'm teaching here. I'm also an academic counselor, and I'm happy to meet you all today. Henriette.
My name is Henriette Eilander. I'm the program manager of whole of CMD, but also of this major. So that's why I'm also here to introduce you to our program and to certain rules that we have and to how it works in the first year and these kind of details. I'm not teaching anymore. I used to teach, but I'm not teaching anymore. But I do have plenty enough to do. But that's why we want to do this introduction together.
We also have support of a colleague today. Nick, perhaps you also want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Nick. I'm a part-time lecturer at the Hanze. And beside that, I have my own company in the gaming industry here in Groningen. And shortly after, I will actually give you a small workshop in which we will start learning how your sons and daughters have actually been taught in the first block. So we're going to experience a little bit of game design later on together. And yeah, basically that's what I do.
We also have two students with us, Evelyn Wiersma and Bas Altenburg. Bas is in the back, in the orange shirt. And Evelyn will come later. Bas, do you want to introduce yourself in person?
Hello, my name is Bas, and I think some of your children already know me because I am part of the board of Glitch, which is our study association. So we organize school events like, just go to events in the Netherlands that have stuff to do with gaming, for example, Control Conference or Indigo. So if your children want to get involved in that stuff, they should come to us. I also recently started my own game company, and well, I'm a second year, so if you have any questions about the program or other stuff about the game industry, you can also hit me up. I'll be around here. Thank you.
And we're super glad with students forming the student representative body like Glitch to help out with the fellow students, and we really like to encourage entrepreneurship, so it's really nice to see already second year starting their own company. Nice. Okay, let's talk about our major, our study. You are here at the Game Design and Development study. We are an international program, hence again the English. There are two other programs, two other majors, Interactive Media Technologies and Multimedia Concepting and Design. Those are in Dutch. The advantage here this year still is that the students start working in their own major. So right from the bat, in the first week, they start in the major game design and development. What do they learn here? Well, maybe they already talked about it at home, why they want to do the study and what they're learning at the moment. We focus that they will learn on designing and developing games for a specific purpose or for a specific experience. Not just designing what they like to play or what they want, but with an intent, a certain goal. talking about the job perspective, Nick will also mention this a bit more later on. There are 3 roles that we see that are very prevalent in the industry. And we focus the program on those. But we also focus on extra parts, not only just learning to make games. We also teach the students a lot about user experience. How is it to use a product? How is it to use a website? Maybe you've experienced a really bad website or a bad product that's giving you errors, or there's no way how to learn how to use it. We try to give them the basics so they can design something that is easy to use. We also think that 21st century skills are very important. It's skills like critical thinking, being creative, working in an international community, having awareness of other cultures. Actually, it's basic competences in the modern century. And they get a lot on that as well. To support making games for a certain experience, we give them also the basis in design-based research. How you want to accomplish what you try to accomplish. And other than that, innovation and entrepreneurship. Starting your company, do something new, challenge the world. Okay, this is our program. From year 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are currently in year 1, in the first block. But I will talk a bit about from the end till the beginning. So in the end, your son or daughter will have to prove that they are worth the HBO study program. And they will do their thesis, their graduation. And the year before that, they have the opportunity to do an awesome internship, work at a company, get some experience already in the working field. And they can choose a minor. They can go abroad, or they can stay here in the Netherlands. It's up to them. There's a lot of freedom, and we encourage students to take that freedom. Some choose to specialize even more in the current field. Others try to broaden their skills, do something with music, or perhaps more entrepreneur skills. It's all possible. In year 2, students get a more specialized program, and we try to give them skills and experience in technologies that are important. For example, virtual reality. Welcome. They also get information on emergent game design, how to use that in games. And we have a game lab. In a project group, they start their own company. They have to deliver a certain game, develop it, and we even have industry professionals giving feedback on them. So, in the first year, they will learn how to make games. They learn it by programming, making art, designing, and they will make entertainment games and serious games. Let me skip to this one. And today, in this block, the students, and they will recognize this, these are the courses that they have at the moment. They work on a project together. They have to cooperate, communicate with each other, and together make a game. They will get the basics on game design, making the art, but also about creativity and intercultural competences, thinking outside the box. And they have guest lectures from industry professionals to actually know what is the industry like? What kind of job do you want? How easy is it to get a job? What should you do? And as they might have already learned, portfolio is very important for that. Create a portfolio of what you do outside of your study. And now I'll give the word to Henriette, and she will talk more about the organization and the team.
Is everyone still with us? If you have any questions, please just raise your hand or ask us, because that's the whole purpose of being here, of course. Ian is one of the teachers, Nick is one of the teachers, but we have a lot of teaching staff here around. Most of them, of the teachers that teach the game design classes, they have a background in gaming. They have a background as being an entrepreneur themselves, or they have worked in the business, or they're usually still working in the business. I think over 50% of our game design teachers is still actually working on games, which is of course a great advantage in a world and in a working field that is so rapidly evolving. I mean, who would have thought that Pokemon this year would really sweep all of the youth out of their bedrooms, out of the sofas, and get outside until people even got bored with all those people outside. I remember I think a month ago, we had our opening dinner as staff, and we had to stop on our bicycles 2 times because one of our teachers had to catch a Pokemon along the way. So it's setting priorities. No, but that really helps. It helps, of course, if you're a student here, that you have teachers who know the drill, who know how difficult it is to really make it in the game industry, but who also have a broader view than just games. Who know something about making websites, know something about making apps, and other interesting developments like virtual reality or augmented reality or multi-layer. I'm not from the business. But it helps to have those people, and it helps that they are enthusiastic about our students, because, as Ian just said, we learn a lot from students like Bas, for instance, who invent their own companies and who come up with great new ideas and find ways to sell them and to make their own games. That's about teaching staff. Next to that, we have counselors. We have academic counselors. Get back on that later on, but we also have counselors here at the Hanze Hogeschool who specialize in helping students with a certain disability. Like, for instance, dyslexia, one of the most common disabilities among students. And if you're really dyslexic, it will really hinder you if you have to program something or if you have to write something. So we have people specialized here at the Hanze Hogeschool who can help students with those kind of handicaps, who can give advice also on legal matters, also on financial matters, but also help people who really don't know what they need to do. Here we also have a career center, for instance. That's also part of the counselor's task. If students really are confused, what shall I do? Shall I continue with this study, or shall I look for another study? We do have a lot of professional staff that can really help our students. Educational support goes without saying. We have a lot of people who help our students in making schedules and also finding their way around. We have here, we're opposite of our own service desk. We have a lot of people who work with 3D printing, for instance, and make sure that all our virtual reality glasses are kept safe. And so we have a lot of support. Program managers, like me, for instance, well, we try to organize everything. Welcome, no problem. The dean of the school, you just met her, mevrouw Trini Faber. We have an exam board, which is also a good thing to know, because as a management we are responsible for the program, but in the end the exam board is responsible for giving out diplomas. And because they have to check whether every student got his credits on his own behalf and really earned this diploma. We have several other committees, like Participation Council. And because we're in the Netherlands, so we have a lot of participation organs. We'll ask students for their opinion every block. So after every period, we sit down with class representatives in the first year, and we ask them what they thought of their teachers, what they thought of the subjects, whether they thought that the subjects were clear enough, whether the criteria for assessment were clear enough, whether they feel that they really learned something and that it was matching up to the expectations that they had. And we learn a lot from that, because that's, of course, the most interesting part for us as teachers, to see how we can improve our program. First year is very important, because by Dutch law, and that's something that I really have to explain, because it's completely different in other parts of the world. Under Dutch law, we are not obliged to select our students when they come into our program. If you have the right secondary school diploma, like HAVO or certain MBO diplomas, you are entitled to start here. As long as you pay our tuition fee and enroll on time, you are welcome. In other countries, they have a sort of selection system. And we have that in the Netherlands for art school, for instance. But we don't have it for these kind of programs. Instead, under Dutch law, we have made the first year a separate phase. And we say in the first year, programs have to show the students what the education is all about, what students can do afterwards. So which occupation can you hold? What kind of jobs are there for you? And in the first year, we have to make sure that we select the students. And that we select them the proper way by giving them examples of what they need to know, tests, exams, so that we can find out whether the students are really suitable for this program and have a chance of completing this program within the 4 years. That's why the first year is a separate diploma. And yes, we will graduate the students and we have a celebration after 1 year if you complete all the 60 credits within 1 year. 60 credits, that's the task. That's the full bingo after 1 year. 1 credit stands for 28 hours of work. That's the job for every student. 60 times 28 hours a year. If you want to continue after 1 year, and you did normal studying time and you weren't ill, of course, or had something horrible happen to you, because that's not normal, you need to have at least 40 credits, 48 credits out of the 60 to be allowed to stay in this program. So after 1 year, you need to have at least 4/5 of the credits available. Because then you've shown that you're up to the task and that you are suitable for this program. If you have less credits, you get a negative binding study advice. That's what it's called. It's not an advice, it's just binding. But it's called an advice, I don't know why. And of course, if you've been ill or if there were other things that prevented you from studying the way you would have liked, that is of course taken into account by the exam board. When in January it becomes clear that you're not motivated or that you really have a problem obtaining credits, usually your academic counselor will discuss this with you, and then it's sometimes better to stop. Because if you stop before the 1st of February, you will not get a negative binding study advice, and that means that you can return later on if you think you're up to the task. Especially if you've been ill, for instance, and you really made a wrong start, you got here on the wrong foot, so to speak, then it can be very useful to unenroll and start again next year. Yeah, and we have a document that's called Teaching and Examining Regulation. That's our law. It says what we can do and what the students' rights are. It is a very lively document, of course, because it's very legal. Usually students don't read it unless they have to, because they have to find out something. Usually their academic counselor knows. But what I want to say is that we have a very strict system of rules concerning how do you get your credits, how do you get your negative binding study advice. So it's all very much looked after. And we want to make sure, the exam board wants to make sure that all students are treated equal and that everybody has a fair chance, which is of course a pretty good thing. Academic counseling, that's the thing that you will notice most about our staff and that your son or daughter will encounter most. They're here for a lot of purposes. Let me first start with who they are. 1A has got Douwe te Luin. 1B has Niek Jonker. 1C, Minabi Parva. Ian himself has 1D. 1E is Mano Bult. And 1F is Loes Damhoff. Those are the academic counselors. And what do? Well, they stay with your son or daughter for the next 4 years. And maybe longer, if necessary. So that's really someone to talk to, someone who really knows your case, someone who really knows what kind of person you are and what your aspirations are. That's also a very important task. The academic counselor tries to poke you a little bit in the right direction and tries to stimulate you to make sort of challenging choices. Yeah? Go out there. This is your opportunity. Learn. That's a very important task. And therefore they have a lot of lecture hours. Yeah? That means hours that they see the whole class. Especially, of course, in the first period, this period. Because, yeah, everything is new now. A lot of students need some help getting started. But also in the rest of the year there will be lectures, but there's also a lot of individual talks. At least 4 individual interviews between you and your academic counselor to really get to know each other, but also to get advice on how to proceed and what you should do or what you encounter. There are also some assignments to really put on paper what you would like. And one of the most important assignments is, of course, the part that we call Meet Your Future. And that means that we organize a lot of guest lectures of people coming from the business who come here and tell you all about what they dreamt of when they were your age and what they pursued and what kind of company they're in and what they see as benefits or downsides maybe, to help you stimulate thinking about, well, is this something that I envision myself to do? Am I going to be that sort of person in 3 years' time? That's, of course, the interesting question. So that's also an important part, because, as I explained earlier, in the first year, we really have to give students an idea of what comes next. What's out there? Okay, you like games, but this is something completely different than playing games. This is about making games, and that's something completely different. And it's a very difficult business to get your hands on. So you really have to know for sure that you want this. So the study support is very important because you have to get those credits and you really have to study for it because it is the next level, but you also get a lot of support. The study counselors, the study advisor, but also we have language support. For people who feel not very comfortable yet in English, we have extra support classes that can help them understand writing or, you have to start somewhere. So you have to dive in, but it always helps if you get a little help. It's called a taalgarage. We don't have a proper word in English, but it's also in English this year. Yeah, and we have a lot of extras. Trini already explained earlier on. We have an honors program. We have several honors programs actually, but we have one honors program that we run here in this institute, and it's for students who say after the first year, was this all there was? I need more challenges. I want to do something extra. I want to challenge myself. I've got plenty of extra time. And I want to do extra credits. It means that in the next 3 years, so in your year 2, your 3rd year, and your 4th year, you will do 30 credits extra, mostly in the direction that you really want to develop yourself in. So if you want to develop your leadership qualities, or you want to develop your intercultural qualities, all sorts of possibilities. Individual, but also in groups. Any one of you two joined the honors program? Both of you. See? That's what you get. Glitch. Well, Bas already explained that he is part of the board now. And you too, eh? See, they really tick all the boxes today. Glitch is our student association, and they organize a lot of nice-to-have activities that are really useful for students. They also have evenings in which they play games. But the most interesting thing is, of course, making sure that we have a game jam in January. A global game jam is what we organize this year for the 2nd time for all sorts of people from the north of the Netherlands, because it's really open. And we're going to lock ourselves up in one of our buildings for a whole weekend and work on games. It's really interesting. PR and promotion team, well, they're also part of the PR and promotion team, which makes, of course, for a nice buck extra. Yeah, they really tick all the boxes, but they're not in a committee. No, they're not in a committee. Well, they will be in a month's time, but there are also committees. And one of the most interesting tasks, especially in the first year, is being a class representative. Because then you really have the chance to talk to the teachers about what you experienced in the block, what you saw happening in your class, how did you like the teachers, how did you like the material that was offered, and the tests and the exams, and do you think that there was improvement, are there improvement possibilities? Those are really interesting tasks to do, next to, of course, the official committees that we have. So there are plenty of extra tasks in which you can develop yourselves. Yeah, and then of course, after the first year, you have just 3 years of a safe ride, and then 2020, and we'll be somewhere in one of the great venues in the city celebrating the graduation. Any questions so far? To all of us. Okay, then we move over to Nick, who's going to give an introduction on the workshop. And afterwards it's, yeah, some time to get busy.
I think
Here
so.
you go.
Yeah. Can I have the clicker as well?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. All right, so that was a lot of information from the get-go. I shortly introduced myself as Nick Jonker, and I'm a lecturer and an entrepreneur. The things that I focus on mostly is doing something with gaming that adds something to society. Okay, so not just doing games for fun. The things that I do, they actually help in healthcare. So I create games, for example, that physiotherapists can use in order to let everyday people rehabilitate in a better fashion. And as game designers, we have these challenges, right? We have the challenge to come up with a certain design. We have to come up with a game which consists out of a lot of elements. And that involves actually thinking about the concept, thinking about the aesthetics, right? What does a game look like, for example, or how is it animated? And thirdly, also the technology, right? You can have art, but if you don't have the technology, the brains of the computer to actually make it move, nothing is going to happen, right? We're in a work field where interaction, computer and human interaction is very important. But obviously, we don't do this just to create games, right? It's to us as game designers, it's not about the actual product. It's more about the experience, right? The thing that I want to do is I want to change something in your everyday life by using a game. And I want to change something in the mind of young people where they actually want to pursue a certain career or where they feel comfortable playing. And we do this by using psychology, but besides psychology, also research and entrepreneurship and innovation. So it's quite a big playing field, right? There's a lot of elements that we have to take into account. So being a game developer is not about sitting there on your own and working on one simple idea. No, it's about being in a group of people, being very social with each other, talking to the person that is actually going to use your game in the end, and making it better, constantly trying to make it better. The field of work that I specialize in is called serious game design. Obviously, the game still has to be fun, right? Otherwise, no one's ever going to play it. But beside that, we are trying to use motivation, mainly motivation, but also a little bit of engagement to make something happen, to do something extra. For example, changing things in how you in your cognition, right? What you know or what you actually believe. But beside that, also in behavior, right? So if you have negative behavior, we try to use games to actually make a difference in that situation, right? What do you actually do and how can you change that? And thirdly, we are also trying to work on the affect part, right? What you actually feel. Do you feel comfortable? For example, in healthcare, I'm going to show an example of that right now. Students have made a game for patients in hospitals. It's a local hospital in Groningen. It's called Martini Ziekenhuis. Some of you might know it, the people that are locals. And the students came up with a solution where they said, well, having surgery, that is quite intense, right? You have to get anesthetics, it's quite an experience, and it's very negative. And they had the idea that if you add a game, virtual reality, right? It's an extra world that you walk around in, that you can actually use that as an alternative for anesthetics, right? So if you play this game, they thought you would actually feel less pain or reduce the amount of pain that you feel. We have a little video of this. Obviously, this game was made by the first-year students, and basically it provides the player an experience that they can have in a headset, right? So you don't see the doctors, you don't see the people that are around you, but you get to do certain stuff in a world, right? You have to think, you have to come up with certain solutions for problems that might arise. And that actually allows you to focus a little bit more on what is happening on the screen and a little bit less what is happening on you as a person. Obviously, this is not a clear fix, right? It's not as if we were saying, if you play this, you don't need anesthetics, right? If you're having surgery and you play this and someone is cutting inside of you, you're gonna feel it. But we try to add something, right? We try to come up with interesting additions to certain fields of work. For example, in my own company currently, we are working with a physiotherapy game that we built. And it allows people to divert their thoughts towards the game while they are doing their exercises. And if a physiotherapist tells you, you have to do 60 exercises right now, and you have to continue for 2 weeks, and you have to do them every day, I think every single person in this room would not complete those 60 exercises every single day. So we introduced a little game. You play the game, and while you are playing, you're actually doing these 60 exercises, right? And every day you get a new challenge, and you get a different game that you can play. And all of a sudden, it becomes a lot easier to actually complete all of these exercises in the 2 weeks that are set for you, right? So by using games, we make it easier for the physiotherapist to have an effective rehabilitation process with the client. We have spoken about the gaming industry, right, and how difficult it might be or might seem to make it there. I think the current industry is quite big. In the Netherlands, we have about 4,200 jobs in the Netherlands. And compared to other countries, that is big. The Netherlands is actually one of the leading countries in serious game design, right? So doing something additional with the games instead of just doing it for entertainment purposes. And we divide the roles that you can fulfill in this field of work in 3 different chapters, as I could say. First and foremost, the game designer, right? Designer, some of you might think that this is the person who actually creates everything and draws everything. But in gaming, we say the designer is the one who comes up with the ideas, right? It's the person who investigates what clients in a hospital might need. It's the person that does the research, but it's also the person that comes up with the game and the game idea. You're focusing a lot on writing, on talking, on researching, and producing documents that the artists and the technology people can use to build the games. This is the most sought after job perspective for a student. Everyone wants to be a designer. The chances of becoming a designer are quite slim, right? In the Netherlands, compared to the technology and the artist jobs, it's about, well, I would say for every designer, you could have 5 artists and about 10 developers. Secondly, the artist is actually the person drawing and creating the aesthetics for the game, right? So they create all the visual styles. They use several different programs on the computer to actually draw things in 2D or in 3D even. And basically, they just have a vision for the art style and what it should look like. Together with the game designer, they work together quite a lot. And there's quite a good job perspective for students there. It just means that you have to put in the hours, right? You have to work really hard, and you have to build a really good portfolio, because for every student that is sitting here, there's another 20 different students somewhere else that also have a great portfolio, right? So the artists, they really have to work hard. Game developers, on the other hand, they are the lucky guys or girls. They are learning how to program, right? They are building the logic in games. They are building the interactions. We can never have enough of these people, honestly. Because they are essentially creating the brain of the game, right? They are making sure that everything works really well together. And beside being a game developer, we teach you how to be a programmer, right? So if you don't want to work in the game industry after 3 years, that's no problem, right? You can build apps, you can build websites, you can use your skills, and they are very applicable to multiple fields of work. Nevertheless, this is not just a walk in the park, right? It means that you have to study hard because you have to understand everything, understand the logic. And it also means that you need to have very good communicative skills because you have to talk to the game designer and the artist and ask them how they would like to see the game as the final result. Right, enough talking, I think. Let's do something. In the first year, we have a workshop that we do with the first year students, and we ask them to improve upon the game Mini-Pawn. I hear some students saying, oh God, not again. Yeah, honestly. And in the game Mini-Pawn, right, we just came up with this small game. It's a 3x3 grid, and one player has 2 little pawns. And the goal of the game is actually to get to the other side, right? The first person that gets to the other side wins. So it follows the rules of chess, right? So a pawn can just move forward 1 step, and you can capture the other player in a diagonal fashion, right? So it's very similar to chess. The thing is, Mini-Pawn is not really a game, and as you might have heard from your children already, it's like, oh, this game, because it's not a game, right? It's just a simple system. The current mechanics are very wrong, right? The balance is off, it doesn't work, it's not fun to play. And it means that if you play this for 1 minute, most of you will say, I've had enough. And this is where the challenge lies for the game designer. Because a game designer never thinks, oh, it's boring, I'm going to put it away. The game designer thinks something is broken, we have to fix it. Okay? We have to come up with better rules and better improvements to make Mini-Pawn a fun game. And this could be an example of something that you do in the field of work, right? You're not necessarily creating something that you think is fun. You're just fixing something that is not working correctly. And we are going to use Mini-Pawn just in a moment outside of this classroom, or this hall, as I might say, to identify how we can actually improve this. And students, just as a little surprise, you all know this little system, right? The students? Yeah. So you're going to help your parents, right? You are the experts to observe what is wrong with Mini-Pawn and to come up with potential fixes. And you write them down. And we're going to ensure that Mini-Pawn becomes a fun game, right? And be as creative as you want to be. If you want to add more pawns, if you want to make the board bigger, if you want different movement that you can do, for example, that's all fine, right? But make it fun. That is the only thing I would like to ask. So let's get off our chairs. I've set up a few tables on the outside of this classroom, and let's start playtesting together. Yeah?
So, dear viewers at home, thank you for joining us from far away. I hope this evening was very informative. If you have any questions, please feel free to approach us. Your son or daughter will have the email address of me and our staff, and they can always send their questions by email. Thank you, and I wish you a good night. Bye.